You're listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann in the morning, where talk is real, truth is in the talk, and there is power in truth. And we do believe the truth will set you free. I can't even say it. The truth will set you free, and Power Talks. We welcome you this morning, and I welcome Melody. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you very much. It's what they call Hump Day. It's Wednesday, November 15th. Yay! But so we're in the middle of the week, and it's as fast as this month is going by.
Oh my gosh!
Week, I know it's the end of the month already. Thanksgiving is next week. I expect we'll be running some replays next Thursday and Friday, or maybe we'll pre-record a program. Not sure, so you all have to tune in. And I think we're going to have a program prior to maybe next Wednesday or whenever you think is best, Beth, to maybe, give the listeners a little bit of, we want to hear what we should be thankful for, what you're thankful for, maybe what we should. Positive show. And so maybe next Wednesday.
I think Wednesday would be great to do that. I do. I think it would be. I think it'd be fantastic to do that. And so listeners, write the number down, 717-300-1218. And briefly, so we can see how many callers we can actually get in, how many we can take, and just tell us briefly what you're thankful for.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait.
That'd be fun.
Yes. There's so many things to be thankful for, though.
Yeah, there is.
Yes.
There is. You know what I did one year? I had all my family in, and I had everyone write it on a piece of paper and folded it up. I just gave them little strips, even the children, and I put it in this big pumpkin that I have. It was a candle. I don't know where I got it. It was a candle, and now it's empty, and it's just a ceramic pumpkin. And I say big. It's, maybe 8-inch in diameter. And before we ate, I read what they were thankful for. Actually, I think I passed them out, and they read different ones. But anyway, it was kind of neat, what the kids were thankful for. The children, as well as the adult children. Some of them were. They were trying to humor their mother. So.
Well, I don't know. It's we'll see if you and I can stay unemotional. See if Melody and Beth can do a program next Wednesday without going into tears.
No, that's not what she said prior to going on the air. She said, maybe we should just have a show. Let's make Beth and Melody cry. Right. And that's probably not too much of a challenge someday.
Oh, my.
I do find I'm more emotional the older I get.
Yeah.
I really do,
Well, much more sentimental.
Yeah.
Although this article makes me cry.
Okay.
Representative Jackie Spear. She's a Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
She informed NBC's Chuck Todd on Tuesday that $15 million in taxpayer money had been paid out over the years to settle sexual harassment suits filed against members of Congress. $15 million. Earlier in the day, she had testified in front of the House Administration Committee that two members of Congress, a Republican and a Democrat, had engaged in sexual harassment in the past. Chuck Todd asked her about her allegations of sexual harassment and what she believes her responsibility is in going public with that information. She says, well, it is my responsibility. After all these years, for the past 15 years, we're first hearing about it. It's my responsibility to address the seriousness of this issue. These survivors are subject to a non-disclosure agreement, so she can't violate their non-disclosure agreement. I think when it comes to our representatives, you know what? Does non-disclosure agreements apply? They paid $15 million in taxpayer money to cover up crimes.
Why is that? Why is that okay? People ought to be furious, absolutely furious. Our tax dollars, as men and women in this country, working 1 job, 2 jobs, 3 jobs in a family, trying to make ends meet, and these guys are up there having orgies in Congress, chasing after young interns, and when they get in trouble, they use our tax dollar monies to fight it or to pay them off.
So this information should explode, and names need to be released. As hard as they're going after Roy Moore, they should feel more obligated to release these names. And now I get that when you have settlements with non-disclosure agreements, I get that legally. But how does this go in this case?
Shouldn't.
It shouldn't.
Well,
$15 million.
I heard that last night, too, and it is infuriating. And then I got to thinking.
I'm flabbergasted. But, yeah, it's not a shock or a surprise.
It shouldn't be.
Shouldn't be.
You know, I'm not sticking up for Roy Moore. I don't know whether he's guilty or not guilty. Again, I keep going back to it's 38 years ago. But do you remember when what was it they were investigating with President Bill Clinton when all of a sudden the Lewinsky story came up? Do you remember what they were truly investigating?
I can't remember.
It was something more financially serious, a fraud or something. I'm trying to remember what it was. And then all of a sudden we have the sex thing comes up, because sex sells. And that's what we're doing now. Look at what's going on and all of these sex stories coming up. And now it's, finally women are being free to open up and fight for themselves. And I'm thinking, what in the heck are we doing around here? We have somebody that sold us out to Russia. We know that they have a fake dossier. I like it that way. I know they want to say dossier. But anyway, they have this fake document. It's put together with lies. They used it to spy upon the people, to open up private information of the people. And we're going to start talking about a sexual encounter, they didn't even have sex. It wasn't rape. And I'm not trying to mean it. I'm not. 38 years ago, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about all the sex in Hollywood as if we didn't know that was already going on.
I know.
I mean,
these people, what I believe, have done so. Like, I agree. It's been going on. It's no surprise. These little Hollywood actresses, these little...
I know what you were going to say.
No, you don't. But these little Hollywood actresses, that... You know what? If you do something and get rewarded for it, you're just part of the... You're part of the contract, the agreement, and now, it's, I don't know. I
want the listeners to know Melody and Beth Ann believe that rape is a crime,
Absolutely.
A serious crime. And some of those young women were actually raped. Some of them were coerced into doing the things they did. It was a pay for play, should we say?
Yes.
Favor to favor. Mm-hmm. And was it wrong? Yes, it was wrong. Were they pressured? Yes, it was. Yes, they were pressured, and they probably regret it now in their lives. But they were young, stupid girls, and I keep going back to I'm not excusing Judge Roy Moore if he's guilty of this. I'm not excusing him, but when does the fault also lie? And I'm not saying I don't know what I'm trying to say here. She's dating a 30-year-old. A 17-year-old dates a 30-year-old. Now, they keep talking about the 14-year-old, but the 14-year-old is not the one that they had the autograph in the yearbook. That was the 17-year-old. Am I correct on that?
I believe so.
I'm getting all confused. And he's supposed to come out, I thought it was yesterday, so maybe with proof that these things are lies, but it hasn't happened yet. But anyway.
The one that's, to me, the most curious is why would the mall prevent him from visiting?
And why wasn't that exposed a long time ago?
And you get his position of power. Of course he kept it out of it. Of course he was probably complicit in keeping it covered up, if that is true. I mean, his position certainly allowed him the ability to do that. So, yeah, he could cover up a lot of his tracks just based on his position, But, I mean, he was the district attorney, so,
right.
or assistant. So, yeah, you can cover it all up. My biggest question is, are us to the right, are we a little too guilty? Oh, I know I'm going to get in trouble. Are we a little guilty of ignoring the facts because of Roy Moore? Or would we be saying the same thing if it was a Democrat accused of the same thing? Does it even matter?
I would hope we're not that blind. I hope we're not that blind.
I hope so too. But, did you see Shepard Smith last night?
No, I did not. I had a speaking engagement last night, and when I got home, I was trying to watch some of the stuff before I went to bed and before I did.
Well, he came out pretty much, with a timeline of everything that happened with Clinton and the uranium that was sold, who was all complicit. And at the end of his theory and documentation, she was not involved.
Hillary?
Yes.
Well, that's not the timeline that Hannity played.
And exactly. And so, it's interesting.
It is interesting. And
it is interesting.
See, I'm not a Shepard Smith fan. Sorry, Shepard, but I'm just not a Shepard Smith fan. I've caught him in too many things that and Hannity is he kind of leans out. Of course, he gave Judge Roy Moore, like as if he's somebody to give ultimatums. You got to come out and tell you've got to have something concrete for us to hold on to in 24 hours, or you need to resign. You need to back out of the. It's leaving him in a.
He does. And I agree.
I think he does need to do something, but I don't. When are we going to go back to the people of Alabama? Is it not their decision? Why is it Congress's decision? Why does Congress have the right, especially after we found out they've spent $15 million hiding their own sins, why do they have the right to tell Alabama, well, even if you elect him, we're not going to accept him? When does it go back to being a Republican, we the people?
Right. But I think he needs to come out, make a stand, and say, okay, then let him come out and say that. Let him come out and make some, strong commitments,
right.
Letting it to them. And he has been a little, from what I've seen, and maybe I certainly haven't, read and seen everything, just a little, not as, I did not
have sex with that woman.
So, it's...
Where's the blue dress? Where's the blue dress? I'm sorry, that's just, this is just getting to be ridiculous how long this has gone on in this nation.
Because if he did that, he would have been able to cut them off at the beginning.
Yeah.
And he didn't. And now, days later, a week
later,
we're still
kicking it around,
and the Dems in that state, possibly, or, getting a little bit of a hit. Yeah, I saw that this morning.
And then I saw something. I know you can hear me. I apologize. You can hear me thumbing through these papers. I thought I had printed it off. Here it is. It's in tiny, tiny print. Oh my gosh, I can't read that. This is something they say that. We're going to, teaser. This is something coming from Judge Roy Moore's wife that I found interesting. Maybe I can blow it up so I can read it. You're listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann in the morning. 717-300-1218 is the number to call. We're going to finish up on this topic and move on to something else, but I do want to share what Judge Roy Moore's wife had said. 717-300-1218, and Melody and Beth Ann will be right back.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net. Gold and silver is tremendously undervalued. Global demand vastly exceeds mine supply by more than 60% annually. There is little in the financial world more certain than a coming explosion in the prices of gold and silver. The U.S. dollar continues to lose value and respect as the world's reserve currency. Our nation faces challenges on many fronts, and a day doesn't pass without another economist bringing forth warnings of impending economic calamity. There has never been a better time than right now to acquire physical gold and silver. Discount Gold and Silver Trading was founded on the principles of truth and honesty. We believe in providing a quality product, quality service, and most importantly, competitive pricing. We provide all forms of precious metals, including American gold, silver, platinum, and rare investment and circulated coins. Silver bars, rounds, and 90% silver bags are on hand for the silver investor. Gold self-directed IRAs are available. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, that's 1-800-375-4188.
Visit crosstheborder.org, C-R-O-S-S, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn. The Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the Scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a reestablished Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more, using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, C-R-O-S-S, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
Years ahead of the dominant media, FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
And we have returned. You're listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann in the morning. And the number to call for you to join us in conversation is 717-300-1218. That's 717-300-1218. Now, real briefly, I was just going to mention what Judge Roy Moore, and I just got this morning, so it says here that Alabama Republican Senate candidate Judge Roy Moore was accused, and of course we all know that, Monday, of sexually assaulting a minor in the parking lot of a restaurant in 1977. The Daily Caller paid a visit to the Library of Congress. It said that Mrs. Moore said that the establishment wasn't there until 2001. So the Daily Caller paid a visit to the Library of Congress Tuesday, and the phone book archive from Gadsden, Alabama, showed that the old hickory existed well before 2001. That doesn't say that the Library of Congress did not have the microfiche for 1977. However, the phone book for 1978 showed the old hickory phone number and location. I would think if you're going to make up a story, at least make sure that restaurant was there before. But anyway, so they're saying that Judge Roy Moore's wife had spread some fake news. I mean, it could have been it was under a different name. I don't know. But anyway, she's saying that it didn't even exist till 2001, and they have disputed that. So, if we're going to start throwing out some lies, that makes everybody even more suspicious. I don't know. I'm ready to just hang them all. I'm just ready to get rid of all of them. They're none any good. I'm just about convinced. Somebody got on to me on my show yesterday for that, but for generalizing. But when we start to show out with the $15 million that they have spent to cover up their own sex crimes in Congress, how they hit on, I watched Laura Ingraham last night, and she was talking about Thurm, as that was his name. She said he said a few inappropriate things, She said, I didn't do anything about it. She said, I'm just saying that stuff goes on. You got 20-year-olds running, these young girls, 20 years old, running around as interns, and these old men hitting on them. And that's just, she says, that's what they do.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that's what they should do.
No, absolutely
not. But it is the nature of things.
Yes.
It is,
and particularly we those who are in those halls, should behave themselves because of who they represent. And if they want to chase little girls around their desk, they should do it on their own time someplace else, not on the
desk not bought by taxpayer
dollar. 15 million of them.
So get your own desk. Get your own desk.
Get your own desk. But here's, we talk about the House passes, all the tax reform and budgets. We have the debt ceiling coming up, and this is just a brief little article. You had the House pass a $700 billion military spending bill. The Senate is expected to pass almost $1 trillion. The bill includes $634 billion for quote-unquote core operations and $66 billion in overseas contingency operations. And the OCO budget is used by the Pentagon to shift money around to various programs as officials see fit without having to ask Congress to fund them. So, they got $66 billion. Who knows? I think it's been several times that they've lost billions and billions of dollars. Well, we can't find it. Well, that probably comes out of this budget.
Wasn't Hillary one of those that lost the money?
Oh, good grief. Yeah. So, that's taxpayers' money, and it's, just keeps getting bigger and bigger. Now, this bill, though, what is interesting about it is President Trump will have to submit the details of his strategy in North Korea to Congress and to provide annual updates on any changes that strategy has seen. So this bill, as it gets passed, will require that. So
I watched when I went home early yesterday because, like I said, I had a speaking engagement, and I turned on the TV. So I never see this person because I don't go home early and watch the TV, and I don't have a TV here in the office and studio. I wished I did sometimes. But Cavuto was on. Now, everybody knows that he is not a Trump fan. He wasn't necessarily a never-Trumper, but he is not a Trump fan. Does not really care for President Donald Trump. But he was talking, and you and I have talked about how watered down this tax reform bill is getting to where it's really pretty much nothing. And that's what he was saying. Well, how people have been commenting, just give me something and we'll work with that later. Well, he says that the something they're about to give us is a big nothing. And I kind of agree with him. I don't blame the president, though. I blame everyone else in Congress, the House of Representatives and the senators. And like I said, presidents come and presidents go. But that Congress, the one that spent $15 million hiding their sex crimes, they seem to always be there.
Well, the problem with the tax reform isn't what is and what isn't in it. The problem is we don't have the money to support it. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter where it's coming from and who's putting it together. The reason it's so bad is because there isn't the money to fund it. I mean, when you're bankrupt, you don't go and go out and spend more money. And it's without, so it's just, there's going to be some programs that are going to work, but for the average guy in this country, it's not going to help you. I saw a headline where, and I get mixed thoughts about it, but the headline was Ivanka Trump scores win with the Senate plan to double the child tax credit. Well, that's all fine and dandy, but then you get hit with other things that kind of offset doubling the child tax credit. So it all sounds great and good in the headlines of everything. Oh, yes, and she's standing there with getting a photo op with Marco Rubio and Mike Lee, and it's really a lot of the same. Is the way I see it.
Never
it doesn't change.
How long have they been talking about tax reform? How many administrations, how many decades have they been promising the American people one thing or another, and they never, ever do it? Ever. They'll make some kind of a phony pretense to do something, but it never gets done. That Charlie Reese article, I don't know if you ever read that. I go back to that all the time. The 545 versus 300 million people. And he talks about the administration, whoever is president, all of them in Congress, and the Supreme Court. 545 versus the 300 million people. They run every time they campaign. They run on the same things. We're going to fix it. We're going to do this. He said they create a crisis, and then they campaign to fix the crisis, and nothing ever gets done. Why is that? Because they don't want to fix it.
They can't fix it because we're in debt.
But they don't want to fix it. They are making money on it, but they're making money. They're getting filthy rich on this stuff.
They are.
While the rest of us are going downhill.
They are, and that's how it really started. When it could be fixed, they didn't because they were getting wealthy. Now they can't fix it, and they continue to get wealthy.
President Donald Trump said there was going to be big news today. I'm going to throw this out there. Maybe he's going to come back and all of them have wiped away the debt. We're just going to forgive your debt. China's going to say, we forgive your debt.
Gold would be $80,000. Gold would be $80,000 today if that happened.
Back to the gold standard. Big thing coming up.
But I'm sure it's going to be within the tax reform or something like that. Probably some sort of an agreement he made in Asia, I would think. Maybe some sort of a trade pact with one of them or something like that is what I figure is going to be the key. You'd have to think, because he just came back from Asia, that it would be in reference to his trip. You would think, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
He's been saying it for a long time, so I'm not sure. But anyway.
So
I can dream. I did not realize, I'm going to mention this now, I didn't realize, like I said, I was out yesterday evening, and when I got back home, I turned on Fox News, and not once did they mention this on any of the shows I watched. I watched Lou Dobbs, I watched Hannity, I watched part of Tucker, I watched Laura Ingraham, and not one time did they mention this, because they're all wrapped up in Roy Moore, they're all wrapped up in Russia and Hillary. But there was a gunman in California yesterday that, and it left 4 people dead and 10 wounded. Some of these it was at an elementary school. And, I just kind of skimmed it quickly this morning. It said 3 individuals, including a shooter, died after a Tuesday shooting in a school in California. One witness reported that 2 kids were shot. Another witness reported hearing up to 100 shots fired near Rancho Tehama Elementary School near Corning, California. Coy Fiera was dropping his daughter off for kindergarten when he heard a gunshot, and wouldn't that scare you to death? Mm. And a school secretary told the children that someone was shooting at the school and ordered them into classrooms. Fiora Coy reported that one student was shot in the chest and foot when bullets entered a classroom window. Another child was shot under the arm. Both students remained conscious. Then the other report that I had said they think that it was an escalated neighbor dispute. Kevin Neal is the shooter, I believe they said. His mother, who only identified herself as Ann, said her son was feeling frustrated and sounded desperate about the ongoing dispute with his neighbors. She said her son claimed his neighbors were running a methamphetamine lab with fumes that were harming his 9 dogs. Well, So he fixes it by going and shooting children in an elementary school. That makes a lot of sense to me. But I was telling Melody when we were on the break, I think you better take some banana bread and take it to your neighbor and be really nice to him. Because this guy apparently went off because he was upset with a neighbor, and that they're not saying that now, but Rand Paul, they were claiming the attack on him from his neighbor was a dispute over property lines or something crazy. I don't know what it was there in their neighborhood. And I'm thinking you better make some banana bread and give it to your neighbor and take really good care of them.
I get along with all my neighbors.
Now that's good. I think I do.
But there's something that you hear very little about. And I think it's important because we're not quite sure where this is going, particularly in the age where people travel, they hop in a plane, they go here, they go there, in the probability of, I do believe there will be a pandemic. We know that population control is very important on the elite's agenda.
Oh, yeah.
And, you have, and this isn't getting a lot of press, you have the Black Death plague that's just being, is being ravaged in Madagascar, ravaging Madagascar. And it says it's going to get worse because the antibiotics that they're giving aren't working. And they said around another 2,000 people had been struck down by this plague. It's the medieval disease, the pneumonic plague. And infection and immunity expert Dr. Matthew Avison of University of Bristol has revealed the outbreak in East Africa is likely to become more serious before the crisis ends. And he says this disease is extremely rare, and it has been resilient to antibiotics. Of course, anything anymore is resilient to antibiotics because they hand antibiotics out like candy. But this is extremely rare, and it doesn't get exposed to antibiotics that often, he says. That means it's more resilient to the antibiotics, and the risk of death is going to be higher. So it's kind of, something not to be,
not to ignore.
Not to ignore, but not to be scared either. But it's just interesting at this point.
I do think that that they give too quickly. They give antibiotics to people these days. Too quickly, people run to the doctor. Some of us may not go quick enough. Too quickly, they run to the doctor and get on antibiotics or steroids to fight a cold or flu or whatever the case may be, a virus of some sort. I know I kind of waited a little too long last year when I had a little episode. I hadn't been sick for a while, and I just kind of let it keep going, and then I thought, okay, maybe I should go get a little help to fight this. And it didn't take long, 24, 48 hours, and the antibiotic was working, and I thought, I'm feeling pretty good. I didn't realize how sick I was because it came on slowly. But I think they're too fast to give the antibiotics, and I think we're going to see more resistant bugs, so to speak, of the antibiotics because they just give them out like candy anymore.
Well, it's true, and I think, we know someone. I have a tendency to wait too long before I go to the doctor.
You don't want to spend the money.
We just don't want to go because we know what they're going to do, and and you let your immune system fight it to some degree, and so forth. But you hear stories of these flu situations, these cold situations, the bronchitis, and every year it's taking longer and longer for them to overcome it, even with the antibiotics. And I think these are signs that's saying, hey, it's these viruses, these bacteria are getting stronger and stronger, and, it's taking people of all ages.
Yes.
And they seem to be a lot more contagious also. Just recently, this weekend, I was talking to my family in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. It's like everyone is sick. They're always sick through the winter. And, the kids
makes you want to wear a
home.
mask to the holidays.
I don't go there. If they're sick, I don't go. And the kids from schools are constantly bringing it home, and with all the vaccines that they get, their little immune systems certainly aren't able to fight off the these bacteria and viruses as easily as they used to after all their vaccines and everything. That's, so again, I believe, now whether this Black Plague, goes around the world, no, I don't think that, but I think this is another sign and another situation where I think eventually, yes, something will. And so
they had some other virus or flu that they were talking about here a few weeks ago, and I cannot remember the name of it. It was named after some animal. I can't remember if it was monkey flu or what it was. Anyway, they had something that they were talking about here a few weeks ago and how it might enter the U.S., and they were downplaying it, didn't want people to panic about it, and they were trying to contain it in the area there where it was. And I think it was in Africa, but I cannot remember for certain. But I remember what we had. Wasn't it last year? Was it the year before last when we had the big scare with the I can't even remember the name of the bug now, the flu that they were talking about. And it took a lot of lives over there, but not here. They contained it very quickly and put people in isolation, and
so they tell us.
So they tell us, yeah.
So they tell us. But anyway, I think I've been kind of following that story, and it's not out of the news. It's still continuing, and the possibilities are, this could be the one thing that you don't have something to fight it. So the key thing is try to stay as healthy as you can. Take your vitamins, exercise, and
exercise is key. And I'm one that doesn't like to go outside. I don't like to go outside in the cold either. And I think we need a bit of fresh air, whether it's cold or not, I know. But I do think we stay inside with recycled air too much. We need to get out and breathe some fresh air. I know when my kids were little and they'd be sick, my husband worked construction, he was in and out all the time, and he didn't necessarily get the bug. I would get sick with the kids, but he didn't get sick with the kids. And I always equated it the fact that he was he was healthier because he was outside. He was breathing fresh air all day, whether it was cold or hot. He was breathing fresh air, and we were inside with the recycling of the air, and constantly breathing the same air. And of course, I was up taking care of them. He did too, but it was kind of a tag team thing when you've got 5 of them and they get sick. But I just noticed that, and then it seemed like later now in life when the grandkids come, he gets sick quicker than I do. But I guess what goes around comes around or something. But you got to be careful. Just got to be careful. Keep yourself healthy. Exercise. Get some fresh air. And take your vitamins.
So what else are we going to talk about today?
Well, that's all I got. No.
Oh, okay. Well, we're done.
We're done.
Todd, run it. See you guys. We're out of here.
No, I went to this meeting last night, and one gentleman came up to me, and I could barely understand him. He's a World War II vet, I believe, because of some of the stories he was telling. And he was not a John McCain fan. And he was saying he thought he had Alzheimer's. He thought he had some problems. Well, John McCain, he threatens to hold up Trump's Pentagon nominees. He's an obstructionist. We know that he doesn't like President Donald Trump, and he's not going to let President Donald Trump be successful in anything that he tries. But I just kind of glanced at this morning. It says the Senate Armed Service Committee Chairman, John McCain, has threatened to block Pentagon nominees until the Army briefs his panel on a newly relaxed recruiting policy that would allow those with mental health issues to serve. Now, I think you have to define mental health issues. If somebody goes through, a period of depression in their lives, should they be marked as mentally ill for the rest of their lives, that they have a mental health issue? What really describes that? What designates a mental health issue? McCain said he has been concerned on a regular basis by the lack of communication from the Trump administration on issues regarding the committee. In other words, he's not getting enough attention. That's the way I see it with John McCain. So McCain said there is no reason he should have first heard of the change in policy from a newspaper. So it really doesn't have anything to do with the policy. It's the fact that he wasn't the first to know. McCain said he had serious questions about the wisdom of giving waivers to recruits with backgrounds of self-mutilation. Is somewhat that comes home to roost, and I guess that's the mental illness, I guess, where you go through depression and you cut yourself or whatever, and I don't know. I don't trust John McCain. I never had trust John McCain, and in reading this article, and this one was from Newsmax, it may be out there on some other outlets, news outlets as well, that there was too much in there about him saying, I should have been notified, I should have known this, my committee should have been informed prior to all of this, and I'm kind of sick and tired of all the committees in Congress. I think sometimes they work too hard, Melody.
You think?
So anyway, I don't know what all that was all about, but they've laxed on some of that, and I think it's probably because some of them were so restrictive. And I don't know about the self-mutilation. I know that when they came out with that in a health care bill about mental illness, I said, well, how far are they going to take it? If a woman has PMS, are they going to be considered mentally ill, and therefore they cannot have a handgun or a gun in their home? How far are they going to take that? How far are they going to go? I know I went to the doctor several years ago, and that was one of the questions she asked me. She didn't ask me if I have PMS. She asked me if I had a gun in my home.
Oh.
Well, what's that got to do with it? What's that got to do with my blood work over there? What's that got to do with, my vitals? What are you talking about?
Do you know what's interesting is someone told me they had gone to the doctor not too long ago, well, just a week or so ago, and it was a female exam and so forth, and she had her children with this doctor. And I'll finish that story when we come back from the break.
On the edge. We're on the edge. It's never good when you take your children to the doctor, just so you know. It's the mom is frazzled. You're listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann in the morning. The number to call if you want to join us in conversation is 717-300-1218. That's 717-300-1218. And Melody and Beth Ann will be right back.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net. Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host, Melody Cedarstrom, right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit DiscountGoldandSilverTrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, 1-800-375-4188. The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on Internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the Internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening. Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
Our Talks with Melody and Beth Ann in the morning. We're on the final segment of this show on Wednesday. We hope you're having a great day. You've been mighty quiet out there. So anyway, Melody had another story to bring to us.
Well, I just wanted to comment on this visit to this family physician that actually delivered this woman's babies. So she's been going to this doctor for 24 years, and during the examination, they ask you all these questions. Have you stubbed your toe in the last 3 days or whatever? They asked her if she was always a female.
Oh my gosh.
It's like, say what?
This crazy world.
They asked her if she had always been a female. That
Every
she
time I looked.
Female. And this is the people that delivered her 2 children. Now, we had gone away that evening, and she was relaying this story, and another person said, well, you know what? My cardiologist was asking me, cardiologist, isn't that what I said?
Yeah, you just kind of learn it. I'm just helping.
That's because I did 4 programs yesterday. But he was referencing that there was questions being asked if he ever thought that he was something other than a male. Does he feel like he was always a male? Did he ever have female tendencies? And I'm thinking, what is going on in this world? I heard Rush Limbaugh talk about it was a Pew poll. I did look it up. It came out last week. And the poll was it like 70% of Democrats. It's a huge number. Only they don't believe your gender is not determined until after birth. And there was like a 30% of the Democrats who thought that a person determines their gender.
Are they going to stop telling the mothers and fathers what the sex of the child is when they do an ultrasound?
Yes. I mean, it's like, how crazy is this? And now these are the same people that are all in an uproar about Roy Moore when they don't really care if you have men going into little girls' bathrooms. I mean,
That's right.
It's just like...
That's exactly right.
Bizarre.
It is hypocrisy. It is hypocrisy to the hilt. It stinks to high heaven.
It certainly does. But I mean, now we're not... It used to be we were questioned about weapons. Do we own guns? Now we're asked, well, are you really a female? Or did you ever have male tendencies? Or did you ever think you were a male? Or did you ever want to be a male?
They did call me a tomboy when I was a little girl.
I was part tomboy, too. The only time, I should say this on air, about the only time I'd ever wanted to be a male is when you're camping. But anyway, that's another story.
That's another story. We won't go there.
We won't go there. But anyway, so, it's crazy. And I was just shocked.
And I've got a news flash for all of them. There's only 2 genders, male and female. The rest of it is mental illness.
That is correct. That is correct.
So let's go back to John McCain and mental illness. What are they going to determine as mental illness? Probably not that.
Probably not.
So.
But that was interesting.
It's interesting, it's disgusting, and it's comical.
Yeah.
All at the same time.
All at the same time.
It's like, I can't believe people are that stupid. Especially doctors. They've gone through biology.
And
you took biology. Is it all about psychology now?
These were college 4-year graduates. So it's not like it was someone who, flunked out of school in the 8th grade. So, unbelievable.
No, they know what sex they are.
Yes. Yeah, they do.
They didn't get confused by a professor in the universities. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Speaking of polls, I got one, and I don't like polls. I think they're just a waste of time. I wonder how much money gets spent on these polls. But this one is 58% of the Americans disapprove of Trump's coverage in the media. You think? You think that the American people can't see what's going on? It's kind of comical when you watch what one station says, what one network says, speaking of Fox, and then turn it over to CNN or MSNBC or something and see what they're saying, and it is almost comical. Mm-hmm. The difference is night and day. And in this particular article, now it didn't print it, but it showed, remember when I was talking about feeding a fish too much? That's what they had. They had the picture of him standing there dumping this food into the koi pond. How they made a huge deal out of that. Nothing he ever does is going to be right. Nothing he ever does will make any kind of they'd make themselves look a little more believable if they just throw something positive in once in
a while.
But they're not that smart. They're not that smart. Melody had something. She got a letter in the mail, or it was in the mail, wasn't it? It wasn't.
It was in the mail.
In the mail. And this gentleman was on my show. He called in to my show. I think it was. Maybe it was Power Talks he called into. Nope, it was mine because I tape my shows. My shows are on podcast, and ours are too. I'm just not the one involved in it. And I went back and transcribed it. But, Melody, tell how you have it.
Well, he sent me he sent it in the mail, and I encourage listeners, if you want to send us something, Power Talks, P.O. Box 276, Berlin, Maryland, 21811. And he says, Beth Ann wanted a copy of the poem, and he says, I listened to you and Bob 20 years ago. And he says, good luck. And he wrote this poem in 1984. 1984 is his date. And the poem is My daughter is, excuse me, the daughter. Beth, I'm not going to get...
She's already emotional.
Mickey. I'm sorry, Mickey. My daughter is the flag I wave. And it goes on, it says, my daughter is the flag I wave. She rides aloft and free, high above the evening shadows at the mountain's majesty. She rides above the shadows, floating gently on the wind, and as always in the evening she begin to sing again. My neighbor, too, is watching, and by the rhythm of his knee, I know he rides beside her through the halls of history. And as I observe the glory reflected in my neighbor's eyes, I feel the shiver of the shadows as the evening breezes rise. I can hear my flag a-humming, I can hear the banners beat, and my fingertips start drumming to the echo at her feet. Vibrating patriotic tunes, drawn from deep within our hearts, shake the windows of our rooms when the daughter's music starts.
Just such a beautiful poem.
It really is.
He read that on the air, and I actually recorded it, picked out just his recording of that. He did an awesome job. And we were talking about, of course, the NFL taking a knee. And he said, what year did you say he wrote that?
He has 1984.
1984. I'm going to put that down. I transcribed it because I wanted it so bad, and it's just, I can see and feel, you know it's a good piece of literature when you can actually put yourself someplace. And when he read that, It not only made me tear up, but chills go up and down my spine of pride for this nation and my heartfelt cries for this nation as to where we are. We don't know who we are. We don't even know what sex we are anymore. But I visioned looking across the way, even with a stream or a body of water with the flag flapping in the wind, and you can hear the music of the flag, the heartbeats of so many, and I just thank you, Mickey, for writing that. It's just absolutely beautiful.
It is. Thank you, Mickey.
I hear music. We are done for today. We will be back tomorrow on Thursday, and there's no telling what news is going to happen between now and then. But we hope that you have a wonderful afternoon. And we will be back with you with more talk and hopefully power in the talk. From Beth and Melody, we say goodbye.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn. The Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the Scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today, so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.